You ever watch something on Lev TV that feels so tense, so uncomfortable, so painfully real that you stop breathing without even realizing it? I did. And once you hear what happened, you'll understand exactly why. It started like any other episode of The View: bright studio lights, an energetic audience, and hosts settling into their usual rhythm of jokes, commentary, and a little chaos sprinkled on top. Nobody in that room, not a single person, knew they were seconds away from witnessing something unforgettable. Jackie Chan sat calmly at the edge of the panel. Relaxed posture, soft smile, hands folded politely. The man looked like a guest who had arrived to promote a movie, share a few laughs, and go home. But then it happened. A flicker, a shift, a moment so small you'd miss it if you blinked, but Jackie didn't blink. He stood up, not aggressively, not like the action hero people expect him to be. No, he rose the way a storm rises, slowly, deliberately, purposefully. Like a man who had reached his absolute limit. The room changed instantly. The air got heavier, the audience stopped clapping. Even the cameras seemed to hesitate. Joy Behar, always outspoken, always poking, always pushing, froze mid-sentence. Her cue cards trembled slightly in her hand, the way they do when someone suddenly realizes they may have gone too far with the wrong person. Whoopi Goldberg leaned back in her chair, eyes widening. Sonny Hostin shifted uncomfortably, sensing the shift in energy. Even the producers behind the glass stopped giving cues. Because this wasn't Jackie Chan acting. This wasn't choreography. This wasn't a punchline or a playful exchange for ratings. This was Jackie Chan, the man, the son, the fighter, the worker, the legend. A human being whose patience had finally snapped on live television. You could practically hear the tension crackle in the air, and the audience. They didn't know what to do. Half of them thought Joy was still joking. The other half thought Jackie was about to walk off the set forever. But Jackie's eyes, his eyes told a different story. They weren't angry. They weren't wild. They weren't theatrical. They were cold, focused, final. They said one thing, clear as day: not today. Not today for insults disguised as humor. Not today for cultural mockery. Not today for cheap shots aimed at a man who spent 50 years breaking his bones to entertain the world with dignity. And that's where this story begins. What pushed Jackie Chan, one of the most humble, soft-spoken icons in Hollywood, to stand up and confront a host on live TV in front of millions? Was it disrespect? Was it misunderstanding? Or was it something deeper? Something that had been building quietly long before he ever sat down in that chair. By the time you reach the end of this story, you'll be asking yourself, who really crossed the line first, Joy Behar or Jackie Chan? Because what happened after that moment, what happened after he stood up, would go down as one of the most shocking, unpredictable, and unforgettable confrontations in talk show history. The kind that hosts don't forget, the kind that producers replay, the kind that leaves an audience silent. Cliffhanger line, he stood there, silent, unblinking, and in that moment, every mask in that room shattered. To understand why that moment on live television hit so hard, why it sent a shock through the room and froze the entire cast of The View, you need to understand the atmosphere that morning, because nothing about it felt dangerous. Nothing felt unusual. Nothing felt like a storm was about to break. It was supposed to be simple. A routine stop on a press tour, a fun, feel-good interview with America's favorite martial arts icon, Jackie Chan, the man who can leap off skyscrapers, crash through windows, and still smile while brushing dust off his clothes. The studio was alive with energy from the moment the doors opened. Producers were shouting directions through headsets. Cameramen were rolling cables across the floor. Stagehands adjusted lights and tested microphones. The audience, packed, excited, primed with laughter, clapped on cue as the warm-up comedian hyped them up. Everything was running exactly the way a show like The View is designed to run. And then Jackie walked out. He entered with that signature grin, humble, grateful, effortlessly genuine. He waved, bowed slightly, thanked the crowd in that soft, gentle voice people around the world adore. Because Jackie Chan represents something rare in Hollywood: real passion, real dedication, real humanity. He is a man who's broken nearly every bone he has and still shows up with kindness. A man who built his legacy not on ego, but on sacrifice and discipline. That morning he was ready to talk about his new film, the stunts, the mentoring, the joy of passing the torch to the next generation. But there was something else brewing behind the scenes. Something no one in the audience knew, but the producers absolutely did. Joy Behar had decided to go harder that day. A little more provocative. A little more sarcastic. A little more viral. Why? Because controversy sells. Because tension gets views. Because pushing boundaries gets people talking. And Joy was ready to push. The problem, she picked the wrong guest. Jackie wasn't there to spar verbally. He wasn't there to debate politics, culture, or criticism. He wasn't there to defend his career or prove his worth. He was there to celebrate a lifetime of work. But when the cameras started rolling, something felt off. Joy's smile looked painted on. Her tone carried a bite. Her first question, seemingly harmless, had a strange twist to it, almost like bait. The other hosts felt it instantly. Whoopi leaned back, one eyebrow raised. Sarah glanced toward the producer's booth. Sunny shifted in her chair, subtly discomforted. It wasn't obvious enough for the audience to catch. But for anyone watching closely, something wasn't right. The air tightened. Tension crept in soft at first, like a whisper, and Jackie handled it the only way he knew how. With respect, with calm, with that trademark patience he's learned from decades of interviews, rehearsals, stunt failures, and public life. He laughed off the digs. He answered politely. He tried desperately to steer the conversation back to positivity. But Joy didn't let up. Each question had a new edge. Each jokey had a sharper hook. Each moment pushed a little deeper. Little by little, the temperature in the room rose. Subtle, quiet, boiling under the surface. This wasn't a normal morning talk show interview anymore. This was pressure. This was provocation. This was a fuse being lit slowly, carefully, deliberately. And nobody, absolutely nobody, knew how close they were to the breaking point. Cliffhanger line. But the first spark wasn't loud, it was subtle, almost invisible until it was too late. Every big fire, every explosion, every moment that changes the entire atmosphere of a room starts with something small, something quiet, something subtle, something that almost slips by unnoticed. For Jackie Chan, that spark came from one line. Just one, a playful jab, delivered with a smile that didn't quite reach Joy Barr's eyes. Joy leaned forward, cards in hand, voice dripping with practiced sarcasm, and said, "Jackie, don't you think it's about time you stopped doing all those stunts? I mean, you're not exactly 20 anymore." The audience let out a small, nervous laugh. Not the belly laugh Joy usually gets. No, this one sounded unsure, uncomfortable, cautious. The kind of laugh that says, was that really a joke, or did she just cross a line? Jackie did what he's done his entire life when faced with tension. He tried to ease it. He chuckled softly, humbly, warmly. "Well," he said, smiling gently, "I still love what I do. And if I can keep my body strong, why stop? Stunts are part of who I am." It was a respectful answer, a dignified answer, the kind of answer only a man with decades of discipline behind him could give. But Joy wasn't looking for dignity. Before he could even finish his thought, she cut him off with a loud, fake laugh. Sure. But when I watched your last movie, I kept thinking, wow, someone get this man a stunt double before he hurts himself tying his shoes." A few people in the audience gasped outright. Whoopi's eyebrows shot up. Sarah glanced sideways, eyes widening. Sunny pressed her lips together, recognizing exactly what was happening. The room changed instantly. The tone shifted. Something sharp sliced through the air. Jackie blinked once, not shocked, not angry, just absorbing it. He breathed in, held it for a beat, let it settle, then gave a small, polite smile that didn't quite hide the sting. He answered softly, "Joy, I love making people happy. I push myself because I want to give audiences something real." A thoughtful, gracious response. But Joy didn't want thoughtful. She wanted viral. She leaned back and scoffed, loud enough for the audience microphones to catch. "Real, come on. Isn't it embarrassing trying to do the same stuff you did decades ago? You're basically the grandfather of action movies." And just like that, there it was, the spark. Jackie's expression didn't explode. He didn't frown or fire back. No, what happened was far more powerful. His face tightened, just slightly, like a door closing somewhere deep inside him. Like a man who just realized the conversation had turned into something very different and very personal. His posture shifted, subtle, but unmistakable. He sat up a little straighter, folded his hands slowly, looked Joy directly in the eyes. He didn't interrupt. He didn't defend himself. He didn't lash out. But something inside him had changed. The studio felt colder, sharpened. People in the crowd leaned forward, sensing the shift but unable to name it. Because everyone realized the same thing at the same time. Joy wasn't critiquing a film. She wasn't teasing a guest. She wasn't making playful banter. She was attacking him. His age's craft, his life's work, his identity. And the man she chose to attack was someone who had spent a lifetime turning away from conflict, someone who avoided disrespect, someone who always chose humility over ego. But today, not after that, not after she poked the one part of him that defined everything he stood for. Cliffhanger line. And that tiny spark would soon erupt into a confrontation no one on daytime TV was prepared for. This is where everything changed. The moment the tone shifted from uncomfortable to undeniable. From awkward TV banter to a confrontation you could feel in your bones. And it happened fast, so fast the audience didn't know whether to gasp, clap, or hold their breath. Joy leaned in again, eyes narrowed, voice sharp enough to slice through steel. Jackie, let's be honest. Hollywood has outgrown you. Younger actors are doing what you used to do, only better. Maybe it's time to accept your career's winding down silence, a silence so complete, so heavy, it swallowed the entire studio whole. No laughs, no whispers, not even a cough. Jackie didn't look away. His hands, resting politely on the armrest just moments before, slowly curled into fists. Not in rage but restraint, his jaw tightened. Then very calmly he said, "Joy, I think you misunderstand my purpose." The Joy rolled her eyes with exaggerated disbelief. "Oh, please, don't give me that honor and discipline speech. This is television. People want honesty." Jackie nodded once. "I am being honest," he said quietly. Joy pounced. "Oh yeah, then honestly, why are you still doing this? Why keep embarrassing yourself?" That was the moment. Jackie lifted his head and stood, not abruptly, not theatrically, not like an action hero rising for a fight. He rose like a man reclaiming something that had been taken from him piece by piece. Slow, strong, unshakable. The entire room froze. Whoopi stopped breathing. Sarah instinctively grabbed the edge of the table. Sunny stared straight ahead, hands clasped tight. Camera operators automatically zoomed out, as if the frame needed to make room for the weight of what was happening. Even Joy leaned back slightly, startled by the sudden presence, the sheer gravity of Jackie Chan standing over her. Jackie looked down at her, voice firm but heartbreakingly calm. "For 50 years I've dedicated my life to film, to storytelling, to giving everything I am to audiences." Joy crossed her arms defensively. "So what? That gives you a free pass?" Jackie shook his head. "No, it gives me dignity." Joy scoffed loudly. "Sit down, Jackie. You're being dramatic?" His eyes narrowed, not in anger but disbelief. A quiet, heavy disappointment. "You think I'm dramatic?" he repeated softly. "Joy, you've spent the past 10 minutes insulting my work, my age, my relevance. Everything I've built. And now you pretend you're just asking tough questions." He stepped forward. Not threatening, just undeniably present. His voice deepened, carrying a weight that silenced the entire room. "You call it honesty, but where I come from, we call it disrespect." Joy fired back instantly, voice cracking under pressure. "Ah, don't lecture me about respect. You want respect. Earn it by knowing when to quit." There it was. The blow that shattered the last wall holding Jackie in place. He stared at her, and something inside him clicked. Not rage. Not ego, truth. A truth he'd been holding back his entire life. "I earned my respect," he said firmly. "Long before you ever sat at this table?" The audience murmured. A few clapped. One woman in the back even stood up. But Jackie wasn't finished. He took another calm step forward, commanding the room without raising his voice. "You sit here judging people who create, while you create nothing but noise." Joy's face flushed red. "How dare you?" Jackie cut in sharply. "How dare you? You invited me to talk about my film. Instead, you brought me here to mock me, to turn my passion and my age into some cheap punchline." Joy stood as well, but even on her feet, the contrast was staggering. Jackie towered over her, not physically, but in presence. "I'm a comedian," she snapped. "Jokes are what I do." Jackie tilted his head. "These are not jokes." Telling a man he's too old to follow his passion. Saying he's irrelevant. He shook his head, disappointment etched across his face. "In my culture, this would never happen, because we treat people, even our elders, with honor." The audience erupted into applause. Whoopi looked up, eyes wide. Sarah covered her mouth. Sunny nodded slowly, almost in relief. Joy's voice trembled as she tried again. "This is my show, Jackie. These are my rules." He looked at her with calm, heartbreaking clarity. "And today you broke your own rules." Silence again. Heavy, charged, undeniable. Joy tried one last desperate swing. "You're washed up, Jackie." Admitted. A Jackie inhaled, slow and steady, and delivered the line that would break the internet for days. "Washed up? Yesterday, Joy, I did my own stunts hanging from a helicopter." "What did you do?" "Sit here and tear down people braver than you'll ever be." The studio ERPD applause, gasps, shouts, camera operators looked stunned. Producers froze behind the glass. Whoopi pressed her hands together like she'd just witnessed history. Joy's face drained of color. Jackie exhaled, shoulders dropping ever so slightly. And in that moment, everyone watching understood this wasn't about movies. This wasn't about age. This wasn't about whether Jackie Chan was still relevant. This was about respect, and what happens when someone finally decides they will not sit quietly while being disrespected. Cliffhanger line. And just when everyone thought the confrontation had peaked, the real fallout began backstage. You know what's interesting about live television? When the cameras cut, when the lights dim, when the music plays and the show pretends everything is normal, that's when the truth finally shows up. And the truth that day was explosive. The moment the screen faded to commercial, the studio transformed. The audience, who had been frozen just seconds before, suddenly erupted into chaotic whispers. Some were clapping quietly, eyes wide with admiration. Some were shaking their heads, unable to believe what they'd just witnessed. Others sat in stunned silence, hands over their mouths like they were replaying the moment over and over. Behind the cameras, the staff looked like they'd just watched a slow motion car crash. Should they approach Jackie? Should they escort him off? Should they check on Joy? Should they pretend nothing happened? Nobody knew. Up in the control room, the producers stared through the glass as if watching a building burn, not sure whether to rush in with hoses or stand back and pray it didn't collapse entirely. And in the middle of all that chaos, Jackie Chan didn't storm away. He didn't throw his mic. He didn't curse or demand the segment be pulled. He simply walked to the far side of the stage, mic still on, breathing carefully, deliberately like a man steadying himself after an unexpected blow. But Joy collapsed into her chair, her face drained of color. Her hands trembled. Her eyes darted between the hosts, searching for something, support, justification, maybe even a way to pretend it didn't just happen. Sarah Haynes leaned in, voice barely above a whisper. Joy, what just happened? Joy's voice cracked as she whispered back, I don't know. Whoopi Goldberg let out a long, exhausted sigh, rubbing her forehead. I told you not to push him? She muttered. You can't treat everyone like a punchline. Backstage, the reactions were just as chaotic. A young crew member whispered, Jackie was right. A stage manager shook his head, muttering Joy went too far. Someone else said, this is going viral in 10 minutes. Everyone had an opinion, and none of them were neutral. Then, in the middle of the turmoil, a producer approached Jackie nervously. They didn't order him. They didn't demand anything. They asked, Jackie, would you mind coming back to the table for the rest of the segment? Please, for the viewers. Jackie paused. He didn't do it for Joy. He didn't do it for the show. He didn't do it to save face. He did it for one simple reason. The audience, he said quietly. They came here for conversation, not conflict. But even as he agreed, his eyes revealed the truth. The quiet, painful truth. This wasn't a man angry. This was a man disappointed. A man who had been blindsided by disrespect from a place he expected warmth. Jackie walked back to the panel, posture straight, expression calm, a master of composure. Joy, meanwhile, didn't look at him. Not once. Not even accidentally. She stared at her cue cards like they were written in another language, eyes glassy, breathing shallow. The second the cameras turned back on, the tension in the studio felt suffocating. Joy attempted a smile. It was a mask. A brittle, fragile mask barely holding together. Whoopi spoke slower. Sarah avoided anything remotely controversial. Sunny chose every word like she was walking through a room full of tripwires. And Jackie, he remained professional, gracious, but undeniably guarded. You could see it in the way he folded his hands, in the way he waited a split second before answering any question, in the way he avoided eye contact with Joy entirely, because he wasn't angry anymore. He was hurt, and hurt cuts deeper than rage ever could. Cliffhanger line, but the truth of what happened that day wouldn't stay hidden for long. When the episode finally aired, the internet reacted like a lit fuse hitting a powder keg. Within minutes, clips flooded YouTube. Within hours, Twitter's or X erupted into trending hashtags. By the end of the day, millions of people had seen Jackie Chan look Joy Behar in the eye and calmly refuse to be belittled. People didn't just watch it, they analyzed it, replayed it, slowed it down frame by frame. Jackie's composure, Joy's tone, Whoopi's reaction, Sarah's shock. Every facial expression became a meme. Every pause turned into a talking point. Every sentence was dissected like an academic study. And then came the opinions. Fans cheered his dignity. Stunt performers defended the craft. Industry legends posted their support. One veteran director wrote, Jackie Chan has more discipline in his pinky finger than most of Hollywood has in its entire body. Another actor tweeted, this man broke bones to entertain the world. He's earned respect, not mockery. But something else happened too. People started investigating old clips, past interviews, compilation videos. And suddenly the incident was no longer an isolated moment. It was evidence. Viewers began connecting dots, patterns, habits, moments Joy had brushed past or laughed off. Clips resurfaced where she poked, prodded, jabbed, and disguised discomfort as comedy. People asked, why does she keep crossing lines? Why go after the calmest, kindest man in the industry? Why act like someone's achievements disappear just because they get older? Comment sections turned into debates. Reddit threads stacked up like towers. Analysts broke down Joy's point of view style with timestamps and receipts. And the picture became clear it wasn't about Jackie Chan's age. It wasn't about his stunts. It wasn't even about the film he was promoting. It was about respect and the lack of it. The world saw a man who spent his entire life honoring traditions, being mocked by someone who used provocation as entertainment